All right, everybody. So welcome back on this beautiful Thursday morning in Trinidad and Tobago. So we had some showers overnight. Yeah, the place was very nice and cool and calm this morning. Yeah, not any sort of delinquent behavior on the highway this morning. You know, you all behaving good. So congratulations to all of you. All right. All right. So let's head into our first topic of discussion this morning. So the Chief Secretary says his administration is committed to improving the lives and the livelihoods of contract teachers. Now, this follows major concerns from the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association. So we do have with us this morning President of TTUTA, Martin Lumpkin, and we also have Tobago TTUTA Officer, Mr. Bradon Roberts. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We do appreciate it, as always.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
All right. So let's
good morning. It's always a pleasure to be on set.
Of course. All right. So let's kick off the discussion with Mr. Roberts this morning. Mr. Roberts, I see you. I saw you on the news last evening, and you were expressing some concerns. But I see where the Chief Secretary, as I read earlier in the intro, that he's giving certain assurances that here's what I have heard your concerns. And his administration is intent in improving the lives and the livelihoods of contract teachers. What's your response this morning?
Well, I was surprised. I wouldn't say pleasantly surprised at all, because I do not believe the Secretary was being true to his statements. For the Chief Secretary to put forward that they have made leeway for leave, that is far from the truth. Also, to speak to changing the salary of the contract teachers, that is not the issue that we have before the division with. We are asking for the security of tenure for teachers. Well, what would have happened was they created a parallel system because we needed additional teachers in Tobago, but they did not deal with the establishment. So that is the established post created by cabinet to see how many teachers could be employed in a particular school. They did not treat with that. So they put contract teachers in the interim while they were supposed to work on it. That started, I believe, back in 97, 98. And with the increase in curriculum offerings, they needed additional teachers since, and they have been employing persons on contract. In that parallel system, these persons, if they take their contract to the bank, to TTMMB, they don't have a substantial offering as the 10 years, they said that 3-year contract that they would have. Additionally, those persons in that parallel system has no opportunity to become a head of department, a vice principal, a principal. So they are stuck in this other leg of education in Tobago. So those are the issues. And for the Chief Secretary to speak to treating with making leeway for study leave and to give a couple $100 to be close to what teachers in service are getting, it is far from what we are really addressing here. And we have done some work on TTUTA's end, provided data to the division. The division would have done some work and presented our report. We came to a meeting to discuss the report, and only TTUTA came to that meeting prepared for it. They promised to reschedule the meeting since August. We are waiting. Next year is a set of elections, so I don't know what focus the Chief Secretary intends to give, because our politics is we give that hope that we plan to work on, and we mamagai the people, and we are not for that. The contract teachers have been suffering for a very long time, and the Chief Secretary actually feels main fight in this matter, because he would have blamed TTUTA in the day for not working on this, and now we are working on it, and they had now this stumbling block. So you were feeling the pain. You made noise. You're no longer feeling the pain, and you are saying to the public that you are working on making leeway to go and study. That's not the issue at all. And before I come up with the Chief Secretary, the Secretary led her team, and she was a contract teacher as well, taking the division that she leads now to court for the same issue that they are dragging their feet on. So I don't understand the language of the Chief Secretary. I believe it's very disingenuous at this moment, and I would want us to get serious. We are not about the fanfare and the political comments and so on. There are contract teachers who need to be treated with.
Yeah.
And we are calling on the Chief Secretary and the Secretary for us to really let's get that going.
Yeah. Mr. Lumpkin, what's your perspective on this matter?
We support the call by the Tobago officer. We are of the view that the division is dragging their feet, as our Tobago officer said. We need to put this out of the political domain. These are lives we are dealing with. These are humans that we are dealing with. And how can you have our educators go and perform to the best of their ability when they have this security of tenure hanging over their heads? And I want to add to what Mr. Roberts said. At the end, when they retire, there are no benefits as such. Have they been getting their contract gratuity as well? These are some of the issues. Let us deal with it. It is taking far too long. Let us put aside the politics. Let us put aside whatever issues there are, and let us treat with it. Deal with the establishment. If it needs to go to cabinet, let it be done. Do the audit properly, and let us get it done. You have hundreds of our members, hundreds of educators that are disenfranchised at this time. And you know, one of the things they look at as well is in Trinidad, there are a number of permanent positions that are in the establishment. What about our educators in Tobago? Do they deserve less? We say no. They deserve parity in this instance.
Mr. Roberts, how many contract workers are we speaking about, contract teachers?
We would have close to 200, just above 200, and the information the division would have put forward in the report suggested less. So when we entered that meeting to discuss the report that they produced, when we asked the first question about the data, that's when we realized that probably the dedication and their end to peruse the information and fact-checked it wasn't done. So the HR department was supposed to ensure that the data that they presented to us is actually accurate. And from August 27 to now, they are yet to do that simple task. They're supposed to have the information as the teachers post-school on their system. So I'm not certain what the division is taking so long getting prepared to do. We are ready to discuss the findings so that we could move forward. So we believe it's just above 200 persons, and they would have presented, I think it was 160 thereabout, which is definitely not the case.
Yeah, but how has this situation been impacting on the morale of the contract teachers?
Well, led by the secretary now, they believe that, and the chief secretary now, they believe that TTUTA has never done enough to address this matter, which is far from the truth. When they went to court, the court did not place them in service. The court cannot dictate that the division employ them permanently. What the division needs to do is justify to the cabinet why they need the positions in the secondary schools so that we can have that increase to have them placed there. The contract teachers now feel trapped because in 2016 there was the promise. Every 2 years you may have a Tobago officer coming forward, we're working on this thing and we're reaching the stumbling block. The division is posturing like we're trying to help, and then it never gets done. So when we saw the chief secretary and the secretary, both former contract teachers, the contract teachers had hope. I made it my duty, working along with my comrades in Trinidad, to get some data from the schools in Trinidad, presented that to the division. We have been working together, but I'm getting the feeling that they're hand in the hand halfway. So they're presenting themselves as if they are trying to work on this, and I'm very much well surprised.
But Mr. Lumpkin, how do you, or what is your message to the contract teachers who I suspect it is having a negative impact on their morale because of what is transpiring and this delay? So what is your message in an attempt to keep them positive?
That TTUTA will continue. TTUTA has always and will continue to make representation on their behalf. We have been always advocating on this particular point over the years, and it is now up to the division and THA to do the necessary steps to have them on the establishment. We cannot continue going down this road. They are being affected, and TTUTA is on the ball. I want to say that the Tobago officer at all aspects of representation would bring up this. And I want to re-emphasize the point. We have two persons who were affected, and now they have the power to change it, and we are calling upon them. If we have to do any sort of public demonstrations, we will do so. We will take it to any authority that is willing to listen, and we will continue to advocate. We will not relent on this particular issue, and we will always, always make representation to the best of our ability.
Mr. Roberts, please speak to the contribution of the contract teachers, because I think it would be of benefit to give our viewers this morning the contribution that these contract teachers are making to the education system in Tobago, and if there is any sort of disruption, what sort of impact it could have on education.
And I really appreciate the question. The contract teachers go over and beyond to uphold, as with all other teachers, to uphold the education system, because the government, the ministry, the division have not supplied all the resources required to uphold our education system. So teachers do that. The issue with the contract teachers, because they will never become an HOD or a vice principal or a principal, they are just stuck in this post. So they give their best without the vision of education being able to benefit from it. Because the experience that these contract teachers will now gain over 20 years, 25 years, not being able to fill up a middle management position is not just limiting to the teacher, it's limiting to the education system. So you have persons who should be fit for management would never get that opportunity, but they do their best. They take part in all the extracurricular activities. We know how teachers, no matter how you warn them, they take their family time, the weekends, the late evenings, the early mornings to prepare for our students. So yes, they have been doing a lot. A number of these teachers have been doing well in terms of the exam results and so on, the extra things that they do for their school. But it's not just about the teacher. I am also concerned about the education system, because you will have junior teachers coming in and leading these persons who have been there for 15 plus, 20 plus, close to 30 years. And it's demoralizing to see that you are there for so long and see that junior person coming and being a vice principal or being a head of department or your dean. So these teachers have been doing a lot. I would not be able to itemize the things that they do because they are wide ranging. However, there is no reward. There's no reward. Once you perform well, you expect to be promoted at some point in time. There will be some level of ambition to reach a higher heights. There is nothing for them. They are stuck there. So to me, that's why I'm very disappointed to hear the Chief Secretary talking about considering giving leeway for study and to increase his salary a little bit to be close to the in-service teachers. It's not about that at all that we are working on. So the teachers who are ambitious to move higher up in the education system are stymied by staying on contract, and that is where the effort needs to be in addressing the matter.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Lumpkin, Mr. Roberts has made a point there, a great point there. But how do you get the best from contract teachers if, in Mr. Bradon's, Mr. Roberts' words, they feel that they are stuck and there is no room for development, and they're just, it's really a sort of a vicious cycle. They're just going around and around.
Yes, and that's a great point. And we have been making that point to the authorities. How can you have these educators perform at their best? How do you want them to continue their professional development if they feel that they are stuck at this level? And it takes a lot out of them, and we must compliment our contract teachers in Tobago for going beyond the call of duty many times. And we will want to encourage them to continue. Give the good fight, and we will continue to do that as well. You want the best out of your educators. We know what education does and it's supposed to do in national development, but how can you treat your workers like that? And it's almost a sense of you want to keep them in bondage. You want to keep them in alignment so that if they want their contracts to be fulfilled and continued, then you have to stay within the lines. We say no. Give them the opportunity for upward mobility, for that sense of security, and for them to perform even better. So imagine if you eliminate this contract issue, what could be the potential in our educators going forward? Yeah,
but Mr. Roberts, has the Farley Augustine administration, via its secretary or Mr. Augustine himself. Has there been any correspondence coming from any one of those offices to TTUTA in an attempt to address this matter, to speak about it, discuss it, and resolve it?
Yes, so I am grateful for the improved relationship I have with the Secretary of Education. However, I want the results column to be checked. So it's not about having relations. My purpose is not to have good relations. My purpose is to have the matters affecting our members addressed. The Chief Secretary, on the other hand, has never responded to a letter from TTUTA. I have written several letters, has never acknowledged, made any movement, but I've seen his comments from time to time when TTUTA makes its points. They would have their responses, but the respect to acknowledge, let's meet and treat, we have never received that from the Chief Secretary. However, the Secretary, I'm getting a posture of trying to help, and the work to be done is very clear-cut. You assess the schools, you see the subject offerings, how many teachers you need to fulfill that program. If we have enough persons on the establishment, if we don't have enough space on the establishment, we make a proposal to cabinet to increase it. If we find vacancies, then we need to have the contract teachers facilitated in becoming and getting into those vacancies. So it's not any rocket science, any deep analysis to be done. We just need to do the work. Once we analyze how many spaces we need to create, we make the proposal to cabinet, and then we fight that battle where cabinet is concerned. However, we are just here giving the posture, and it cannot be so clear-cut and taking so long. It's years that we have been talking to this administration. We would have even had the Assistant Secretary, who was a Tobago officer as well, inside of there, going to those meetings. We're not getting any sense that these persons are willing to work on this particular matter. And I'm very passionate about it because it's not just the teachers, it is the education system that is impacted by this model of offering for our educators.
Mr. Lumpkin, does the Education Ministry do they have any role in this at all?
At this time, no. They can advocate as well too. I mean, from Minister to Secretary. However, because of the autonomy that Tobago has, they have to do their groundwork. They have to present the matter to cabinet. And when that matter arises, then we can make our advocacy to the ministry and to the other members of the cabinet to assist. This is taking far too long. Mr. Roberts would have pointed out since the 1990s, you are having these persons under bondage. We need to get this issue out of the treated with and out of the way, and let the education system flourish in Tobago especially. We cannot have this parallel system continuing as it is right now.
Mr. Roberts, what's the next step?
Well, we were going to be increasing our advocacy, and I actually communicated with the Secretary and let her know come November we'll be back out here agitating, because we agitated back in early July and we got a response. And funny enough, it's only when we are in the media we get the responses that we desire, which is quite unfortunate. So we will do our due diligence in being out there, having that message. We're going to have the media rounds and so forth. And based on the response, because we don't let everything out of the hat or out of the bag, based on the response, we will know what the next action, you all will see what the next action is. So we hope to not wait to see what TTUTA will do next, but the persons at the helm will come to the table and let us actually hammer out the work, because TTUTA has been working with the division on this. So it should not be a fight, and we should not be fighting against the persons who were making the same arguments we are making now. So we are hoping that it doesn't get to a state where our contract teachers have to take any particular action. We are hoping for good grace in terms of our education system flourishing, as was mentioned before, and we are ready, willing, and able to work with the division in advancing this cause.
Yeah. Mr. Lumpkin, if you'd allow me to take you into another direction now. So I see where you're speaking about yesterday's floods, and I see where you are also calling on principals to really be given the authority to dismiss their schools early in emergency situations. Now, I know that you and I would have discussed this some time ago following an emergency. I can't remember at which institution, but at that time, we both discussed that because it is an emergency, principals should be allowed to act almost immediately to send their students home and not have this delay in trying to get onto the ministry and getting the authority from someone at the ministry to say, go ahead. When this situation is a dynamic situation, it's fast moving and can have severe repercussions. What's your take, Mr. Lumpkin?
This issue, Mr. Hopkinson, is a very vexing issue, and it continues to happen. Although we would advise our members, advise the Ministry of Education, it continues. Our members have been reporting to us that they have to get permission for issues that our principals have the authority under the Education Act. And they continue to be chastised when they don't follow it. And some of our, or the majority of our principals are acting, and as such, they are keeping in line. So you see another sense where the ministry and division are trying to keep persons in line, keep them under bondage, keep them manners as such, because they have them under contract, you have them temporary. And this cannot continue. Thankfully, this week, during the floods, no one was injured, no one was swept away. But you had principals having to wait hours to get so-called permission, whereby they have the authority, because they have to look at the safety of those. And by the time they were given permission, the floodwaters were up. Our principals in the schools know the situation, know the geography, topography, etc. of their school and the community, and would make that decision in a timely manner to save lives and limbs. But the ministry is continually, and we have not gotten the real data, but we are suspicious that someone higher up in the Ministry of Education calling the shots, someone who doesn't understand what takes place at our schools, and you want to hold that power to say yes, dismiss, or no, don't dismiss, whereby you have persons who can do it. And I want to add, you want to talk about school-based management. You're pushing school-based management, yet still you want to micromanage the schools and not give the administration to I wouldn't say the authority, no, it is there under the Act, but you don't want to give them that leeway, and you want to keep them in bondage as well.
Yeah. Mr. Roberts, I believe from the beginning of this year, we were speaking about the state of schools in Tobago. I remember one claim that you were making, maybe funny to some, but some schools being overrun by rats and electrical problems and other issues affecting education in Tobago. Has there been an improvement?
There hasn't so much been an improvement, there has been a cover-up as to what's actually happening. So when we liaise with the division, procurement, project implementation unit, they don't have the information that we desire because there is another company that is governing school repairs in Tobago, which is something that the division would have put in place. We continue to liaise with the secretary and the division as best as possible to give them the information. They have a tiered system in terms of how they are doing the repairs, so there are some repairs outstanding, and we hope that those will be done as they have promised in December. However, the information from the division side is not as transparent as it used to be. So we ask our staff reps, to provide information as speedily as possible so that we can have the conversation at the level of the division. One of the concerns I have, though, is Scarborough Secondary School. We had this turn-in, and I'm not hearing anything else. I think I heard the finance secretary speaking to the money from the finance minister. However, if you don't have the design that you can have a budget towards what this new school would be, I don't know what we're asking the finance minister for. So I don't want the posturing like we're doing something. So the Tobago should know Scarborough Secondary School, the new school is projected to cost about 300 million, 250 million, 251 million, and let us join in advocating for it to be done. But we are getting some submissions that give a posture that we are working. I was informed that the soil testing was indeed done. We have not gotten that information other than in the media recently. parents are concerned with putting Scarborough Secondary School as a first choice or second choice because they are down quite frequently for infrastructural issues. So these are some of the things that we are working with. So the same contract teachers that we have a lot of them in Scarborough Secondary School, they have the added frustration with infrastructural issues. So we continue to liaise with the secretary. And as I said, the communication with the secretary has been much improved, but it's the results column we're looking at. And that is what we want treated with.
All right. Mr. Lumpkin, I just have about 1 minute again. Anything else you'd like to add before you leave us?
Well, we are coming down to the end of the term, and as with Tobago, this infrastructural issue continues to plague health and safety at our nation's schools in Trinidad and Tobago. And we are hoping that come the new term that there will be a serious improvement. We understand the financial constraints and challenges of the government and the ministry and division. However, education is far too vital and important not to be investing in education. I want to commend our educators throughout Trinidad and Tobago for the good fight that they are continuing to put forward in educating our nation's children. And we want the government to put more emphasis on education in both Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah. President of TTUTA, Martin Lumpkin, and also Tobago TTUTA Officer Bradon Roberts. Gentlemen, thank you very much for speaking with us this morning. We do appreciate it. Bye for now.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Pleasure.
All right, everybody. So we are going to a very short break. We are coming back.